Alright, usually on my channel what I did is reviewing the novelizations of the movies, because everybody knows the Indiana Jones movies, so I didn't want to just repeat what everybody else says about those films, the original four. So instead I reviewed the novelizations, but there isn't a novelization for the fifth and final one, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So just to get this one out of the way, since I'm talking about everything else, I'm also gonna talk about this movie. This movie has fans who blindly defend it, it has haters who just blindly hate on it. I'm gonna be honest here. I don't give a shit about franchises anymore. The last years were just a nightmare. And I just don't care anymore with franchises like it's like Star Wars, who cares? It's all terrible. There are only like 2 or so good movies. James Bond, fuck it. In my opinion, that has been going down since the fucking 90s, with the movies just being not as good as they could be. And now we got Indy. It's like, who cares? Okay, we got a bad movie or something. I don't like this movie at all. I don't hate it with like burning rage. I'm gonna be honest, most of them, I watched it twice. I watched it when it came out. Not in cinemas, obviously. Yeah. And then I rewatched it recently. Just so, to give it a fair shake. For most of this film, I was just completely apathetic. I didn't enjoy it. I wasn't necessarily miserable. It was a series of images that flew past me that I looked at, with no emotions involved whatsoever. Just a little bit to clarify, because I know there are like weirdo fans who defend this movie to death. Not a lot, obviously, but there are a couple, and they accuse everyone who doesn't like it of like being one of those stupid grifter idiots on YouTube. Critical drinker types, those fucktards. So just to get this out of the way. And now let's talk about the movie. And I think it's just fair I begin with the stuff that I actually liked in this. The basic MacGuffin of a time travel device is fine, in my opinion. We get to my problems with the story then. Indy giving his like retirement gift that his colleagues give him to just like a random homeless person, that was fun. That entire action scene with Indy on a horse and like this parade with like Neil Armstrong and the guys, that is fun. Actually, I enjoyed this. It looks like fucking shit, like basically all of this movie, which goes into the negatives, but in itself, that action scene, yeah, that was nice, I guess. Harrison Ford, there's a couple scenes where he acts, and that's okay. The whole opening with young Indy in World War II is not great, but kind of enjoyable. It falls into the same category like the horse parade scene, where it's kind of fun, but it suffers because it's in this movie and doesn't fully work because of numerous factors. But in basic concept, that's a more fun part of the movie, I guess. The ending I like because it goes crazy, and I like when Indiana Jones goes crazy. So the time travel itself, I'm on board with that. There are numerous other problems there, don't get me wrong. I think that's about it. There are some little moments here and there, but overall, again, I was apathetic for most of this. Okay, so let me go into some points. Mads Mikkelsen is the worst Indiana Jones villain possibly of all time. People praise him because he's Mads Mikkelsen, but his character fucking sucks. And I would have always said Donovan is the worst villain in the movies, because he's just like forgettable, but at least like his motivation makes sense. Mads Mikkelsen. So first thing, I guess I never knew what a Danish person sounds like when speaking German, because Mads Mikkelsen sounds like he has a speech impediment every time he talks German in this movie. When he's speaking English, he just sounds normal, like Mads Mikkelsen. Every time he speaks German, he sounds like he has a speech impediment. He's basically talking like this. And at first, I legitimately wondered if that was like a choice for the character, but no, because he doesn't have that when he's speaking English. So yeah, that's, I guess, just his Danish accent. That almost falls into like the positive, like unintentionally and ironically, because I just found it very funny every time he did it. But okay, the reason I think he is the worst villain, his plan. Okay, every other Indiana Jones villain, their plans make sense enough, okay? The Nazis want the Ark of the Covenant because it makes the army invincible, supernatural powers. Whatever. Temple of Doom, Mola Ram, and the Thuggies, they want these stones. Again, magical powers makes them powerful. They want to take over the world. Holy Grail. Donovan wants it, rich asshole, living forever, obviously. Even Crystal Skull. Spalko wants the fucking skull because it also has, unknown powers, knowledge of everything, whatever. That all makes sense enough. Mads Mikkelsen is a Nazi, and he wants to travel back in time. And you think, okay, that makes sense enough, because, it is 1969, he knows how World War II turned out, and now he can go back in time and, change the course of history. What you think would happen is he's gonna tell the Nazis what to do differently so they win. And then the movie throws a twist in at the end, which is so utterly retarded. If I have to explain it to you, you're the target audience of this. He wants to kill Hitler himself. And somehow that will lead to winning the war. If you think about this for a nanosecond, you will realize how stupid this is. Even if we ignore the fact that Mads Mikkelsen from 1969 traveling back in time creates the paradox of now there being two Mads Mikkelsens, whatever, we have to buy that he would get close to Hitler with 2 or 3 henchmen that are going back with him in time. He would kill Hitler. He would somehow take his place or convince the Nazis that he knows how to proceed with the war as a complete fucking nobody. And even if you convince them you're a time traveler and what you're doing is justified, you killed the beloved Führer. You're not surviving, dude. That whole thing, that is another thing that I almost loved ironically. This plot, if it had gone through with the time travel, would have led to Indiana Jones having to save the life of Adolf Hitler. Which would have been fucking hysterical and so tone deaf. I would have loved it. But yeah, so in short, Mads Mikkelsen sucks. His acting, there is nothing to his character. The best thing about him is his weird speech impediment. And the other villains aren't much better. There's this guy from Logan and the Autism Predator movie, who I fucking hate. I despise him. I just hate his face. I think he's a terrible actor, and just seeing him in a movie is an immediate nope for me. So yeah, that didn't help. There's a big muscle German guy. He was kind of fine as just a henchman, but that's about it. I guess there was also this German guy in the prologue, which was set during World War II. Forgettable, but I appreciate that they got 2 or 3 actual Germans instead of Americans speaking German, so that was a nice little thing. With the other characters, we obviously got Helena Shaw, who she suffers from a couple of things. Being important to Indy based on the relationship to a character that we don't know. This little British guy that is introduced in this movie, Shaw, who's in the prologue in World War II, I don't give a shit about him. I don't care. Why should I care about his granddaughter? And that leads to the other problem with her. She's a fucking terrible actress. This British woman who looks like Dobby. She falls into a category with John Oliver, that fat guy, something Corden. These untalented British fucks who get banished from the kingdom and then somehow find success in the United States. I'm sorry, the best explanation I can give you why she's terrible in this movie, just performance-wise. Because she wants... What this movie is going for is a, charismatic, fun, female action star character. Okay, let's look at Marion, for comparison's sake. Remember how she was actually fun, funny, charismatic, badass, had good chemistry with the other characters, was actually attractive, and most importantly, wasn't British? Now we got Helena. I get what they are going for, and I kind of like this in concept, having like this younger reflection of Indy, who she herself is supposed to go through a character arc, being kind of a fucking asshole at the beginning, and through the adventure with Indy, she learns to be a better person and has a little character arc, and Indy would also have a character arc going on this adventure with her and getting back into the adventure mood and whatever. I get this, and I kind of like this in concept. That could work very well. The problem is this movie is terribly fucking written. She sucks as an actress as well, and Indy doesn't have a character arc. No matter what the fanboys of this movie, try to tell you, he doesn't. I actually like the setup of old Indy being, depressed and fucked up because his beloved Shia LaBeouf has died. It is still such a spite move to kill Matt Williams off like that, but whatever, okay. So Indy starts off, he's depressed. Oh, that's another thing I like. The only pictures he has of his wife are from, 50 years ago when she was young and hot. And it's just behind the scenes pictures of Karen Allen, which is really funny. It always makes me think, who the fuck took this picture in that specific scene? I guess, the search for the Ark of the Covenant wasn't that, important that they couldn't stop to take some pictures like tourists. But so I get Indy's arc at the beginning, when he's set up, he's older and stuff, and he's kind of depressed and he doesn't want to adventure anymore. He's in a dark spot. I get that. The problem is, what a story should do with that is, okay, so he gets involved in this new adventure with Helena and stuff and the time travel device, reluctantly. Okay, makes sense. By the end of it, he should make a fucking choice and actually be active and do something and make decisions and stuff. He doesn't. The reason the ending sucks when Helena punches him out is because he doesn't have a fucking arc. At the beginning he's depressed and just wants to be done with it and die, and at the end he just is depressed and wants to stay in the past and die, and then she punches him out. And then, like I said, for most of this I was just, whatever, apathetic. And then the actual ending happens with him being reunited with Marion in the present day, which is so obviously a reshoot. I don't know what the original ending was, but that was a quick reshoot. You cannot convince me otherwise. It is so insulting how they are clearly trying to just ring the nostalgia keys in front of your face and acting all emotional and stuff. And it is all so completely unearned and unsatisfying that I was just insulted by it. I guess while Indy was unconscious in his room, Dobby just went to Marion, a woman she literally doesn't know, and just told her oh yeah, he's fine now. He's over his depression and stuff, or at least he wants to be over it. You should talk to him. I guess. I can only assume that's what happened. It's so fucking bad. And again, if you want to see how bad an actor Dobby is, Karen Allen has a 30-second cameo at the end of this movie, and she manages to be a better actress and still more attractive than this British fuck. Oh my god, when Salah walks in and he's telling his stupid grandchildren about the events of Raiders, and then he starts singing like he did in that scene in Raiders, it's so cynical and just bad. I can't believe people would get emotional. What the fuck is going on in your heads? The only good thing I will say is this doesn't necessarily contradict old Indy from the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, which I want to point out. This is... I'm gonna get hate for this. George Hall is a better Indiana Jones than old Harrison Ford. Fucking suck it. He's more fun, he's funny, he's more charismatic, he looks cool, he has drip. His Indiana Jones dresses differently. That's another thing. This movie is visually ugly as fuck, but I just want to quickly go into Indy's design. You can have old Indiana Jones. I'm fine with that. Like I said, I love George Hall as old Indy. You can do that. He looks the same. He can keep the fedora. Give him something, dress him differently. Don't give him the fucking leather jacket. And the whip. Why even the whip in this movie? Why does he even have that? Aside from, he's Indiana Jones, he's gotta have that. That's what I like. Fucking George Hall's old Indy. He's dressed kind of like Henry Sr. which is fun. You can do something like that. It's so weird seeing old man Harrison Ford dressed as Indiana Jones in 1969. It doesn't fit anymore. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look like it fits in this universe anymore. Okay, and now why the rest of the movie looks ugly. Let's quickly get this out of the way. The special effects in this look as bad, if not worse, than the special effects in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, a movie from 2008. All of them look obviously fake. And it takes me out of it. I can accept bad effects in an Indiana Jones movie. I love Temple of Doom, it's my favorite. The Mola Ram death looks funky as fuck, but I love it. It works, and I can accept that it looks bad. De-aged Harrison Ford at the beginning, there's a couple of shots where it works. I mean, it looks good for de-aging, I guess, but it's still obvious. He sounds like an old geezer. A couple of lines where he sounds okay-ish. Not his first couple of lines. Those are the worst. And they actually had like a latex mask or something of young Harrison Ford, and it looks fucking horrifying. But I don't know, maybe that would have been preferable, I don't know. And then the other effects, like I said, like that parade scene. In concept, that's fun, but it suffers because it just doesn't look good whatsoever. And then the filmmaking itself, the comedy, is something I want to really point to. The Indiana Jones movies are very funny, especially, obviously, Last Crusade. This movie has so many moments that are clearly supposed to be humorous, and they don't work whatsoever. They are just purely executed comedic moments. And before these assholes come in with like their defense of like, this is a serious Indiana Jones movie that's supposed to be more focused on his character journey and the drama. Fuck off! Fuck off, you idiots. There are so many moments in here that are clearly supposed to get like a laugh out of the audience or to lighten the mood, and they don't work at all. I'm sorry. And also about this point, because that was something brought up when the movie came out and stuff, that this was supposed to be exploring Indiana Jones as an old man. And obviously he's old, he can't do all the action stuff anymore, and the movie was gonna address that, you know, and be like an interesting look at the adventure man who can't adventure anymore. To which I say, that's fucking bullshit. On rewatch especially, Harrison Ford is doing all of the indie adventure stuff in the first half of this that he's doing in all the other movies. It's just more awkward now because he's an old man, but he's jumping, he's running, he's punching out guys that are 2 centuries younger than he is, and it's not presented as like, oh, this is old Indy, and he has to find like different ways to approach these situations now because he's old. No, it's just typical indie stuff, but he's 70 years old. So fuck right off with that bullshit as well. In the second half, he becomes more pathetic. That's when the Helena character takes over and is like better at everything but sucks as a character. It doesn't work. So, like I said, for the most part, this movie is forgettable. It's joyless. It's not funny in any way. It doesn't really have good action. It doesn't really have good character stuff. It's not a good send-off for Indiana Jones whatsoever. And the ending is the one part that legitimately made me angry. And that still gets a reaction out of me. Even though, like I said, for the most part, I'm just done with it. So yeah, I would not recommend this to anybody. I don't know what the appeal of this would be. Unless you're a hardcore Harrison Ford fan and you want to watch all the movies he's in and like all the Indiana Jones movies he's in, watch Young Indiana Jones. That's just better. Especially watch it in its original format with Old Indy, because George Hall is a fucking treasure. God bless this man, rest in peace. And I'm glad the Indiana Jones timeline ends with his version of Old Indy as a 94-year-old being in a happy place with a larger extended family.